I'm Angie Birky, and this is What She Said, a podcast about the things women talk about when we're finally telling the truth. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to What She Said. It's really nice to be back with you. I've had a little bit of a recording hiatus the last few weeks. I took a vacation. I was in Portugal for a couple of weeks. It's time to get back into the rhythm of life. And what better way to do that this week than with a guest I know very, very well and is very close to my heart. I have my sister-in-law, Libby Birky, with me here today. Welcome, Libby.
Thanks.
This is
so
really
nice
awesome
to have you here.
It's
really fun to be here.
We have been troubleshooting getting this to go. So we had my brother, her husband, in here trying to help us. He's a tech guy, and Libby just said, sometimes just having him around technology makes it better. So all that said, we figured it out, and it's just so great to have you here. I asked you to be on the show when I first launched it, and then we knew that you were going to be here for a little visit, so.
Works perfectly.
It works perfect. Yeah. So the other thing, yesterday we were on a hike. We went on a little nature walk, and we were trying to think about what we wanted to talk about today because, you know, we've spent the last, I don't know how many years of our lives with each other. 20 some? You and Brad have been married how long?
28 years. 28 years?
28 years.
Yeah.
And then you were together for a few before that. So
Four.
I know life with Libby more than I know it without her. And so it's like, what do we want to talk about that we can condense into 30 or 40 minutes that we'll be able to do? And I think the theme for me, what I said to her is, you know, when I think about you and the life that you've lived, it is often the road less traveled and the choices that others don't necessarily think to make, but that you have lived an incredibly enriching life, and you enrich the lives of, you don't say this about yourself, but I say that you have enriched the lives of the people that love you so deeply. And it just feels like that to me is kind of the cornerstone of where to start.
That's awesome. Thank you.
For those that don't know Libby at all, which is probably lots of you, the reason that I say that about Libby, and also my brother, but this is what she said. So this is about Libby and her journey through all of this, is that they had started a community cafe in Denver in 2016.
2006.
Oh, wait, thank you.
Yeah.
Back it up. Another decade before. I don't know why I'm trying to truncate it. In 2006, you were living in Denver, and you guys came to me and to others in your lives and said, we have this idea. We have this idea, and we want to create a cafe where it's a nonprofit, and you donate what you feel like you can afford to pay for your food, and we figure out the rest. And I'm like, at the time, maybe we could have prices on the menu. You were like, no, that's not the way this is going to work. You guys were just like, we know what we want our vision to be. So that endeavor, you had been warming up to that idea for years. You guys knew you wanted to do something like that. But I want to take it way back to before that even came out of your mouths in terms of starting that, and talk a little bit about what prepared you to want to live a life of more of a service-oriented way.
That's an interesting question because I don't think about that often, but growing up, my family was really community focused. My parents were really into volunteering and very active and a part of the heartbeat of the community. And so we volunteered at Special Olympics every summer. My dad ran the track, and we were always out there. We were little kids on the track volunteering. We did Tootsie Roll drives. We did all these sorts of being active in the community. My dad, I mean, he would give anyone the shirt off of his back if they needed it. And so you just sort of have that example, and then you think you want to rise to the occasion. You want to do the same things. He always taught us, you leave a place better than you find it. Those sort of messages of his run through my head often. All of the lessons that I hold dear are from that constant reminder that we are all in this together. Whether they said those words or not, that's a message we all got. But it's interesting because all of my siblings have a little bit of a different trajectory. None of them have real jobs anymore. Like they don't work 9 to 5. I think we all find value in that flexibility and the be your own boss. I think we've all had the experience of it sucks to work for someone else because nobody holds the standard like we were taught to hold the standard. And so it's frustrating to be in a position where someone else is telling you what to do and you know it's like, or you watch your cohorts or your coworkers and you're like, I cannot believe we get the same salary. I cannot believe we get the same treatment. We had such a high bar set that it's hard to work for anyone else. So I think we all just found our way to being our own bosses, so we didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I get all of that. And I also saw you go through years of doing it. You were a teacher for many years. How many years did you teach before you ended up?
It was 12 full classroom years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so seeing you do that, and you always chose to work at schools that were a little bit different and unique. They were never public.
Never. I only worked at a public school when I first graduated.
So Libby grew up in Central Illinois, the same place I grew up with my family. And when she and my brother started dating, I was thrilled because I got to have another sister my age. My oldest brother had already partnered at that point, but they were a few years older than me. And Libby and I are only 4 months apart. So it was really fun to have that. And from jump, I just recognized what a different impact you had on Brad and on our family. From a very early point in your dating life, when you guys were together in the same space, there was always some sort of volunteering that you guys were doing together. You guys were volunteering at the Catholic Worker House pretty regularly.
Yep.
And so when you moved to Denver, you guys had been married a few years at that point, but you got really quickly involved in the Catholic worker community here as well.
Yep.
And I just remember going with you guys a couple of times to volunteer there. And I've done volunteer work in my life also. I think growing up Mennonite and that community also has pretty deep roots in community service.
Yep.
But nothing the way that you do, and nothing the way that you live your life. Like, you live your life in a way that I think exudes that sort of ethos from the choices you make about your food intake, your clothing purchases, your home life, and how you guys kind of outfit your home. You guys do so much of the things that you can do for yourselves. You do a lot of thrifting and a lot of secondhand so that you're not consuming consumables on the scale that others in this world are. I just see you guys living it from like soup to nuts in your whole entire life experience. And that is so unique and beautiful to see in a world that is based so deeply on consumerism in this culture. How would you talk about those choices and how big of a role that plays in your life today?
I think partially because I had a lot of experiences as a child and a young person. Growing up in the Midwest, my dad was a construction worker. Your dad worked in construction. My mom worked in a school. Your mom worked in school. We had very similar sort of experiences, very different religious upbringing, but still the same ethos. I feel like I had many chances to see other people who had less than I did. And I thought I had sometimes I was just like, why can't I have the real Cabbage Patch Kid doll? I got the generic one. And it was always like, you just break my heart. I'm like, I have to get the knockoff. But there was always this moment of, and my parents constantly reminded us that there is someone who doesn't even have that. And so I think those moments sort of put me in check to a point of like, it just stuck. It hit a part of me that was just raw. And I was like, oh, zip it. What are you doing? And how embarrassed I'd be at those moments. And those things were just really impactful.
Yeah.
They just
stuck.
Yep. And so we sort of have this idea that we live simply so that others can simply live. And it's not something we talk about a lot. It's not something that we even really discussed, but it just sort of like, I have 7 pairs of shoes. Do I really need a new pair of shoes? I constantly have that sort of voice in my head of, do you really need this? I don't buy anything new. If I can buy it used, that is what I do. I just feel like there's so much excess and we just spend all the time. And there's something about convenience, and it's not like I wouldn't want those things. I just prioritize other things first. Like, I would much rather spend $150 having a great experience with someone than $150 on a pair of shoes. I just value those sorts of expenditures so much more than material things.
Yeah. And what you guys find valuable is different, I think, than a lot of what we are taught in this country to value.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. And the way that you place importance on those experiences and the people in your life. I mean, you guys are never not present for things that are important to you. Even if you are in a very different part of the country, you will make it a point to be where you need to be.
Yep.
And it's not about, like, you always have what you need. You just are making choices to live your life in a very different way.
Yep.
And so kind of going back, because you've mentioned a couple things that I want to make sure we have at least a second to talk about. Back to 2006, when you guys finally get the cafe up off the ground. And it was such a revolutionary thought at the time. I know community cafes have sprouted up a lot more in the last 20-ish years, but I guess talk a little bit about like what your original vision was and what you were trying to achieve in Denver specifically, and what things look like over the course of the 12 years
12
you
years,
guys
yep.
ran the cafe before you moved on.
Yep. I think so. When we first started, we had that in-flight magazine. We were on a flight. We wrote down the idea. We had all these little ideas that we wanted. We wanted white tablecloths. We wanted full service restaurant. We wanted it to be upscale and send Brad to culinary, or, one of us to culinary school. It ended up being Brad, but just we wanted all these things to happen. And so we had been, you talked about earlier, volunteering at the Catholic Worker House, and we started talking to folks who were experiencing some otherness, whether it was, they were homeless or experiencing poverty or some sort of something that put them outside the margins of what we consider sort of a normal existence. And we started talking to them about the cafe and told them this great idea. This is what we wanted to do. And it wasn't until we really listened to what those people said in response to our idea that it dawned on us that we didn't completely understand what people who were experiencing extreme poverty were facing. Mm-hmm. And so it was a lot of time we got the feedback that I would never go in there. I've been told my whole life that fancy places are not for me. I've been asked to leave. Mm-hmm. I've been told I can't use the bathroom. I've been told it's not, I do not belong there. Mm-hmm. And it didn't dawn on us. We just thought, oh, this will be so nice. They'll feel so pampered and
cared for.
Yes. And that was not the reality. And we just had this idea that, this is our privileged white selves. This is how we're going to do this. We really started listening. We were like, okay, that can't be what it is. So that's when the idea sort of shifted, and we realized it had to be a place of comfort. It had to be a place of safety. It had to be a place of dignity. And we had always had the idea of working in exchange for a meal or volunteering and having that sort of interaction, because what we had found, what at least I had experienced a little bit of when I was volunteering as a kid, and then also when Brad and I had done a lot of the volunteering together, was that there were a lot of people who were not utilizing those services because they were pretty degrading. Like, you had to stand in line and essentially, when you got to the front, profess all your trauma to whoever was filling out this form, or you're filling out this form. You had to tell them your whole life story. You had to say, like why you needed to be in line, what your income was, all the situation. I thought, I would never want anyone to know all those things about me. That's absolutely insane. Like, all they need is a meal. Why do they have to jump through this hoop of declaring their life story to you in order to get help? And we also saw a lot of times that a lot of those places were had great intentions, meant well, but had a lot of religion attached to them. Mm. And so you had to attend their church service in order to get the meal. And I was just like, oh, that's not what Jesus intended ever. This is not what this is supposed to be. Right. So lead by example was sort of where we came from. And the cafe, we knew that healthy food had to be accessible, because what we found every time when we went to the Catholic Worker House and made dinner on Tuesday nights was that all the time the salad would be the first thing to go. Like, oh, salad. They just get so excited, because essentially what was available at the Catholic Workhouse was disgusting. It was leftovers. It was day-old pastries that they got from the grocery store. It was the lettuce that was rotting. It was something that didn't sell on the shelf. It was cans that had dents in them. Just processed. And when we would bring the fresh food and make something from scratch, it was always like, oh, this is so amazing. And we just started listening to that. Okay, so it needs to be accessible. It needs to be comfortable. It needs to be something that people are willing to try. So that's where we landed on pizza, because we felt like all cultures have some sort of toppings on bread, and it's easily approachable. If we just say, even if I put something crazy on it, like kohlrabi or, something that people weren't familiar with, we knew that they would at least try it. So that sort of gave us our in. And over the course of the years, we put more emphasis on local and organic as we made relationships with farmers. But I think when we first had the idea, we said if one person came in that needed it and got a meal, then it would all be worth it. And here we are celebrating 20 years, and the cafe is still going strong, and it's still providing healthy food for people. It's still building community. And it really is amazing to see that it's, thriving without us.
It is. When you guys first got going and those early years, I just remember you both were still working your 9 to 5,
Yep.
how you could, right?
Yep.
And Brad was able to adjust his hours. Then eventually you left teaching as well, and he left his tech job and all of this stuff. But like, you guys really had a vision for this, and it was something that was like so deep on your hearts that, if I'm not misremembering, I mean, I think you guys kind of cashed in retirement that you had saved up so that you could get this going.
Yep.
Potentially got some grants maybe, or some sort of funding to start.
And then in the beginning, we just did it ourselves. It was all of our 401k. We took all the money out of it, even though your parents thought we were nuts. And my parents were like, "What the hell are you doing?" I told my dad at one point we paid off the car so that if all else failed, we could live in the car.
Right.
He was kind of like, "Well, at least you have a plan." But we did have, like, we sent a letter out to all of our friends, sort of early crowdfunding before crowdfunding was a thing. I think that crowdfunding probably brought in maybe $5,000. And when we tell people that we opened a restaurant with, it might have been $30,000 at the time. So it was, I mean, people just laugh at us. They're like, "You did what?"
And it's wild. You did it in a city like Denver, in a main thoroughfare on Colfax. It was a very small space.
Yep, 600 square feet.
I mean, it was wildly small. But then over the course of the years, you expanded. The space next door became available. So you did a big renovation, and like, that's still the space that it's in today. There was another one that was opened up in Toledo. You guys really helped get that one off the ground. Unfortunately, that one didn't sustain in the community. It was open for a number of years.
Yeah. I think it's hard because replicating this idea is possible. You can totally do it. It can totally, and it could have succeeded in Toledo.
Yeah.
I think what's the problem was, because we were the ones who were there in the beginning of SAME, we knew the hurdles they were going to encounter. And it was hard because being founders, we're only advisors. We're not able to make the final decision, and we're not able to, have a real say in any of it. So it was really heartbreaking when it finally decided to close.
And you can't make all those choices, but just to see the way that, I don't know, the heartbeat that SAME Cafe has. I know that there have been so many stories over the years. I remember when you guys got a little bit of national attention on ABC News.
Yep.
John Bon Jovi had heard about SAME.
Yep.
And that became a story. And there was just a lot of influx of donations at that point. And I think about all the stories. There's not a story that I hear about or an event that I go to that is oriented around SAME that like everybody in the place is crying, right?
Yep.
Like, there's just so much that it has done to change people's lives, to give dignity and respect, to give back to the community. It's just incredible. But I think mostly too about the people that I have met through you guys whose lives have changed, and like being able to bring those people into your lives. You guys have been back in Denver now for 8 days on this trip, 8 or 9 days. You have another week left, but everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants a piece of your time and your energy because of what, I mean, it kind of started with all of that. I mean, it's who you guys are, but really, I don't know. It just shows me how hungry people are and the world is for this type of dignity, respect, kindness, love, compassion,
connection. It really is.
Yeah. And when you are serving healthy, nourishing food, the menu is always 2 salads, 2 soups, 2 pizzas, right?
Yep.
For the most part.
Yep.
And like, that's still, I think, a lot of the
most of the time.
menu.
Yeah.
But really, it is just like fellowship around a table with people who accept you for where you are and who you are. And you had some really interesting experiences along the way. I know there were times that you guys had to handle some hiccups of things happening in the community or whatever, but the goodness of people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, you just believe in that when you see it borne out in the way that it did with the cafe, and that they really want to be, everybody wants to contribute in the way that they can to their own wellness, right?
Yep.
I don't know. It's just been such a joy and treat and privilege to be able to watch, even from the outside, kind of looking in at what you guys did over the course of those years.
And it's a lot of hard work. I mean, it doesn't come easily. Like, I think building community is one of the hardest things that people can really engage in. Like, really authentic community of, like, it is not easy. It is a constant battle. It is a full-time job. It's not something you can just even slack off on a little bit.
Yeah.
It has to be 100% focused on the goal. And I think the coolest part is that SAME is a place where you can practice being human. It is real. It is, you see people from all walks of life.
Absolutely.
I was challenged every day to be a better person.
Yeah.
Some days I rose to the occasion and some days I failed pretty miserably. But I miss those kind of pressure points and those challenges because it really is a place of, it's radical. It's totally different than anything that exists in the world, but so essential. And I think that it still exists is really just heartwarming and amazing and wonderful.
Like when you're touching on the hard work that went into it, right? Which is kind of what leads us to the point in time in which you guys were like, okay, we've done what we came to do with this, and you were to the point where, I mean, founders always at some point get burned out, get exhausted, need to find a new way of reinventing themselves and of moving on from the thing and kind of even having to cut ties to a certain extent.
Yep.
So that gets us to the van story.
Yes. Yes.
When you guys were finally ready to say, okay, we have to let go of this. Like if we stay in Denver, we will not be able to let go. We will not be able to disentangle from this if we stay here.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about getting to that decision point and like what came next.
Yeah. I think over the course of the years as we had no business starting a business. We had no business running a nonprofit. We had zero experience. I mean, other than being volunteers ourselves, we knew nothing about that. So as we grew and the organization grew and changed and the board changed and all these things, and we got experts alongside of us who had skills that we didn't have, it became very clear that we knew nothing about nonprofit life cycles. And then when it came to like, personally, we were burning out burning the candle at both ends for so long that we did not do a good job of taking care of ourselves. We never took vacation. We never closed the cafe. We never walked away. We never hired. It took us a long time to hire someone and let go. And that's a whole, I mean, I have control issues. So I wanted it to be perfect every time, every customer. And
we all? That's
most people, yes.
Like
when you're just an employee, it's a different interaction. Like you don't have the same level of commitment to the space that I wanted. And so it got to be really challenging in the end. And we learned that nonprofit founders should leave. Like we initially, when we invented it, we were like, we are creating a place where we can work until we die. And it became very clear that we were killing the place. We were saying no to opportunities. We were getting really bitter and we stopped seeing the humanity in the interaction and the dignity in the interaction. And it sort of became, instead of, I want to go to work every day, it got to the point where Brad stopped working almost a year and a half before I actually raised the flag and said, I can't do it either. We knew that when we hired the new executive director and they were taking over, we had this moment of, we got to go because I can't watch this. Yeah. Like I can't not be here. Yeah. If we are in Denver, the cafe was our life. And
I mean, your whole community was born out of it.
All of our friends, all of our connections, everything was because of it. And so we decided that it needed to be a clean break. We got into our teeny tiny little pull behind teardrop trailer and we just left. And we said, we're going to be gone for at least 6 months. Give them time to just be and figure it out and make mistakes and not have us hovering and not have us questioning every single thing they did. And to Brad Rubinale's credit, that was our new executive director. He handled it beautifully and he was very gracious and called us once a month and gave us updates and connected us in and asked questions. And he was just phenomenal. I personally don't feel like the transition could have gone any better. There were tons of times when I bawled in the car because I'm seeing them paint the walls and I'm like, I hate that color. That's not what I would have done, but it's not my place anymore. And so it was really good that we were doing that away from the space and not here and not hovering. And it was grieving. And there was a lot of, we called it motorized meditation because we spent a lot of hours in quiet, just complete silence, not talking to each other. And we just spent the last 12 years having a dinner party for 24 hours a day, essentially. Right. We needed the time to just decompress and let go and grieve the process of leaving. And I think for both of us, there was a little bit of, we felt like we failed in some ways because we weren't able to do it for our whole lives. There was this, but we wanted to do this forever. And we thought this is what we were going to do. And so, and then there was also this, oh shit, what do we do? Totally. We don't know what's next because we just did this great big thing. And then everybody's like, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? What are you doing next? Exactly. I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing next.
Stop getting those questions for years.
No, we still get them. I think people have now backed off a little bit and been like, okay, they're fine. But there's that idea that we had this amazing experience And we didn't want to do it again. I don't want to replicate it. I don't want to open another one. I mean, we helped with Toledo as much as we could and as much as they allowed us to. But there was this like, I have no desire to be the founder of another cafe. I'm happy to help and consult and
you
help.
did.
Yeah.
You did. You filled in for people. You spent 3 years on the road doing some of that.
Yeah. So backing up a little bit, we got to that 6-month mark when we said we were going to leave, and we sort of were at a crossroads, and we were like, "Are you ready to go back to Denver?" I don't think I'm ready to go back to Denver. And we just sort of like, instead of turning left to go to Denver, we turned right and kept going. Yeah. And then we found out we loved living on the road and hopping from cafe to cafe and checking out what other cafes were doing, and family and friends that we hadn't seen in years. And there was whole segments of people's lives that we missed out on because we were constantly in the cafe and never took a break. So we just spent all of that time reconnecting. Yeah. And then COVID hit, and it's sort of like...
I forgot that you started out your teardrop camper that you guys bought and renovated and did all of that. And then you were like, okay, we need to sell this and buy a conversion van. And you built that out and like built it to live in. Yep. And then lived on the road and then settled down in Florida for a bit.
Yeah. When COVID hit, our whole lives, our whole existence had been national parks and state parks and museums and libraries, but they were all shutting down too. Right. And so we had this moment of like, are we going to live in someone's driveway? What is this? What does this look like? Like, what do you do in a van when everything you normally have done is closed? Right. And of course, it was that transition time where everyone was sort of panicking and not knowing how long this was going to last and what the implications were. Right. And we both sort of looked at each other and were like, okay, maybe this is time to get out of the van and settle a little bit. And that's when we found the tiny house. Couldn't have been any better for us. Yeah. Just like magic. It was awesome.
It really was. I remember that time of you guys settling down there. And yeah, that house was just so perfect for you because it was kind of right-sized to the life that you guys wanted to be living. And then became kind of a peaceful period of just being still. Yes. Which I feel like it had to be hard going from moving constantly to being still in a very small town. How was that during, like, okay, it's COVID already and this and that. Like, how quiet did that feel?
So I think everyone has their own sort of recollection of COVID, but it was such an insulated experience. We literally were in that tiny 360 square feet. We didn't meet our neighbors. We didn't meet no one. We lived there for a good solid year before.
It's a really good thing you guys really love each other.
Oh,
and like
amen.
Being in close proximity and don't need other people.
When everyone was panicking during COVID, like all of our friends were calling us and being like, I hate this. This is awful. I'm like, this is actually pretty nice. I don't mind. We had a lot of practice.
And, you know, at this point, you have really settled into, I mean, I know you're not in that space anymore, and Brad took a job in Georgia, and so you guys are kind of still back and forth. And you're on that next iteration of life when people have been asking you for years, what's next? What's next? And now what's next is kind of here. Yep. But you are at a different place for yourself, right? So for the first time in your married life, at least since Same Cafe started, you're not working day to day together. Nope. In the same space. Nope. And Brad is going to an office and being there during the business hours. Yep. What is it that is on your heart and on your mind in terms of what you would like this phase of your life to be orienting around?
It's been really interesting because in the very beginning, it was very hard because we are best friends. We spend all time together. It was like this moment of, what am I if you're not here? Like, this is weird. And so there was a whole lot of figuring out what do I do? What do I like to do? Because my job, and has been since we left Same, was sort of untraditional. I work my own hours. I set up my classes whenever I can. Teaching, Yep. So that's super flexible. Mm-hmm. So I moved all of my students to during the day so that when Brad and I finally had time together, it wasn't truncated by, I got to go teach, or I got to go, I have a lesson. At least all the students I could. And then just figuring out what brings me joy. Like, what do I like to do? How do I want to spend my time? How is it that, and then also this layer of we moved to a small town that is very conservative and in the South, very Southern. So I'm learning all of these things about Southern hospitality and my misconceptions and all those things. So all of it's just a little bit of growing and stretching. And some of it's been really good and some of it's been super uncomfortable. But I think, again, it comes back to that, like, live simply so that others can simply live. And just, what does that mean for me? Like, how do I do that with or without Brad? Like, I know exactly what it is with Brad. And so what does it look like without Brad? And so just figuring all of those things out and places I can plug in this tiny community when we're there. And then also figuring out how much, support and interaction I want to have with his new job and going on the adventures with him or not going on the adventures with him. And then what does that look like? And because sometimes it means we're apart for, months at a time. When he's gone for, 6 weeks on a bike trip and I decide not to go, then it's like, okay, what does that look like? And how do we manage that? There are lots of hard times, but it's been really good for me to just find myself. I mean, I've lived more of my life with him than without him. And so it's been like, okay, so in some ways, this is so dramatic, but in some ways it feels like I can relate to women who have lost their husbands and for people who have been married for a really long time and then to be by themselves. It's like, I sort of get that. I sort of understand on a different level what that feels like, because there are days when I'm like, he's 1,000 miles away and I have a flat tire. Okay. Yeah. Brad used to take care of this. Okay. Now I get to do it, or whatever it is, whatever. Like, and I'm completely capable. I just realize it's so many moments of like, Brad does this, and now I get to do it, whether I like it or not.
Right.
It's just a sense of independence that I guess I've never really had as an adult.
Which is wild to think about, because as an observer of you and your life, there is nothing that you can't do. Like, when I think about if I had to pick between you and Brad to have a handy person around, I would pick you. Right. But in my mind, there is no project that you can't handle, whether it's a construction project or, I don't know, a cooking project or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. And so I think it's interesting to think about that from my perspective versus your perspective of what that feels like to be doing it. And I think maybe in many ways, because I haven't had the through line of a consistent relationship in my grown-up life in terms of a partner, like I've had so many fits and starts with that, but you guys have had that consistency. You really have grown up together. You've been together since you were 18, 19. And so, yeah, like what you have learned, he's learned alongside of you and vice versa.
Yep.
But yeah, you are really entering a brand new phase. And, we both are turning 50 this year. And this is like a whole new life that you're living at this time. I don't know. I think we're always reinventing ourselves. And maybe at this time of our lives, also as women, more so maybe than ever before. And trying to do it in a way that is taking us back closer to ourselves rather than further from ourselves. And I don't know, it's been such a joy to, not just this period of time, but to be along watching your journey through all of these phases. And I'm excited to see whatever is next for you. I mean, I feel like you guys did have that really peak experience so early on that now you get to kind of reinvent and see where it goes next.
Yep. And we sort of try to think about the fact that there are some really cool things that have been started by people who are old. So, I mean, I feel like
you have so many ideas left too.
Yes.
Like, I know there's so many ideas that still sit within you, and it's just a matter of when is the right time.
Yep.
And what does that look like?
Yep. And what energy do we have for it, and how much time and emphasis can we put on the next? But something that I also have to sit with is just, that was amazing, and it can just be amazing. I don't have to do another amazing thing.
That's exactly right.
And part of me is like, oh, but you could. You totally have the idea to do this next crazy thing or this next amazing thing. And I could, yes. But I'm also really just finally content with, it's okay to just let that thing be and then continue. Like, I don't have to climb the mountain again if I don't want to. Yeah. And then hopefully I'm giving myself space enough to be like, when I'm ready, I might climb another mountain. But right now, that one's pretty good.
And quite literally, you are climbing mountains right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the other thing that's been really fun to watch since you guys have been able to step away from the cafe and give yourselves a life back, is your ability to focus on your health.
Yes.
And what is right for you, and, how best your body is going to live in this world. And I don't know, the commitment that you guys have to just being active and being close to the earth and all of that, it's just really cool.
I have never taken this good of care of myself. I've never prioritized my health like this. It has just been like, it's the thing that I just keep coming back to of like, I have to do this in order to have the energy to do anything else. And sometimes it's like, oh, I would rather just lay in bed and not go exercise or whatever. But then I realize I'm just going to feel miserable later, and I just have to take the time to do it. And I think it's probably because I'm surrounded by all kinds of people. Brad's always been, like, always taking care of his body, always run. His energy is really great when he has time to take care of his body. And so I learned from that. It took me a really long time. But
well, also, let's not act like you did a half Ironman.
Yes.
Let's not act like you haven't been active for very, very, very many years. It's just been a new focus on you.
Starts and stops. Like, I complete those things and I'm like, yeah, now I'm going to eat potato chips for 6 months. Whereas now I realize a little bit of more consistency is a bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw, Libby, thank you so much for being here. It's always so fun to sit and catch up with you.
This has been amazing. And I have to say thank you just for all the lessons you've taught me.
Well, we'll save those for another day.
That could be an entirely different conversation.
Totally.
Yeah. But I just feel honored that you're my sister.
I feel exactly the same way. Couldn't be luckier. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening. If today's conversation stayed with you, share it with someone you love or leave us a review. And if it sparked a story of your own, I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you next time on What She Said.